in material things. Happiness is not located in your bank account. Now you might say to me, okay, and I hear where you're going with this. You might say to me, well, Pastor Ian, give me $1 million and I'll tell you how happy I am. Well, I'm going to suggest to you, yeah, you might have security in your life. But contentment, isn't that a matter of perspective? Happiness does not begin with a sense of gratitude with what you have already been given. Amen. This week I was reading my own devotional, and there was a story about a farmer who once sort of grew discontent on his farm. The farm itself had become an incredible amount of work. It was hilly, the cows needed tending, the fences needed mending, the lake needed to be stocked and managed. He decided he was really unhappy. He just wanted to move out of the farm. He wanted to move somewhere else. So a real estate agent came in and to help him sell the farm. And the farmer showed her around and talked about his life and the farm. And then the agent went away and to just really get things ready for the sale. So a few days later, she came back and she needed the approval for the wording on the listing. And she read the ad to him that described, and it went like this, quote, "A lovely farm in an ideal location, quiet and peaceful, contoured with rolling hills, carpeted with soft meadows, nourished by a fresh lake, and blessed with well-bred livestock." The farmer paused. He goes, "Read that to me a second time." And after hearing it again, he said, "You know, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to sell. I've been looking for a place like that my whole life." You see, contentment and gratitude begin with a certain perspective. It's not how much you have, or even what others have. You see, there's a thankfulness that helps us refocus in on what we truly do have. And that way, too, it's less likely that we become discontent with what we don't have. And you see, Paul was upset with these false teachers because what they were doing was they were planting seeds of discontentment and envy and greed in their prosperity gospel, which had as its focus the accumulation and the love of money, which valued wealth for its own sake. Now what's interesting is that Paul was not against those who had money and wealth, and he was aware of that. But at the same time, he was also very much aware that there is this trap that money can become. There's this temptation that it possesses, and there is this power that we can give over to it, such that it becomes the idol. It becomes that which we worship, as opposed to who Jesus is in our life, the gifts that we've already been given. And in many ways, what it is true is that we become what we worship. What do we worship, and who do you worship this morning in this culture? And so it is in this context that actually Paul famously says, and we've heard this quoted as well too, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." See, he doesn't say money is evil. He says money is the root. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And in their eagerness to be rich, some have wandered away from the faith and have pierced themselves with many pains. So there's this warning that he extends to Timothy. And he wants to encourage Timothy to watch out for this. And I would do the same thing for us today. Watch out. Be warned of that kind of a message. So what does Paul suggest to his friend in a positive way? Maybe what are some takeaways that we can get from this passage for ourselves this morning? What is some relationship advice, leadership advice that Paul gives? Well, first of all, it is this. And this is the first one that that I was thinking about, and I thought, be content. And in this way, you seek the work-life balance before God. Be content, seeking the work-life balance before God. Here's Paul's word. This is once again the Message translation, Peterson's translation on this. He says this. Actually, let's say it together. A devout life does bring wealth, but it's the rich simplicity of being yourself before God. Since we enter the world penniless and will leave it penniless, if we have bread on the table and shoes on our feet, that's enough. I think sometimes there are those who've taken a look at this passage and they've criticized Paul unfairly, I believe, in my opinion, is that Paul is saying, well, you really shouldn't better yourselves. There's really no place for bettering yourself, challenging yourselves, using your talents for making a living and for prospering. In fact, what Paul here is, the way that it's translated here or suggested here is that really what Paul is saying, well, contentment is apathy. It's accepting the status quo. No, that's not what Paul is saying. Paul is saying that, in fact, there is value in challenging ourselves and using our talents to make a living, and indeed, if we can, to prosper in that. But at the same time, as we're doing that, we need to realize that as we do this, we need to have boundaries, because in many ways, this power of money can take over, and before we know it, we begin to sacrifice things that really matter in our life. And some of you have been down that path, your relationships, your health, even what you worship, what becomes a priority in your living. And so Paul is really saying here, there's a balance to life. Indeed, work hard, but in all things you need to come and you need to trust God for the provision of even all of your needs. Because sometimes in some places you might have it all, but you might also lose it all. And according to the definition of the world, then, well, you're really a failure. But to God, no, you're not. I still love you. I still care about who you are. You're not about your work. You're not about your bank account. You're not about your wealth. You are a son and a daughter of God. That's what Paul is saying here. A devout life does bring wealth. But what is your definition of wealth? It's the rich simplicity of being yourself before God. God is the measure. The second thing is this. It says this, be useful. Don't feed the envy beast. I must admit, I sort of feed the envy beast at times. I just got myself a new Toyota Prius, and I'm sort of really happy about that little Toyota Prius. But I was driving down the road on Dundas, and there was I don't even know what you call it, but it was just one of the, it was a Maserati. That's what it was, right? Have you seen the Maserati? Wow, you know. I'm going, oh, man, that would be cool. But then, there's a part of me going, I wonder what kind of gas mileage he gets. We do it, don't we? We sometimes feed that envy and jealousy beast. And Paul, once again, reminds us, be useful. It's not about that. Tell them, and he says this. This is the words that he tells Timothy in his preaching. You preach this message, my brother. Tell them to go after God, who piles on all the riches we could ever manage, to do good, to be rich in helping others, to be extravagantly generous. And if they do that, they'll build a treasury that will last, gaining a life that is truly life. My friends, maybe this is obvious to us this morning, but when we give some of our time to helping others, when we give in compassion and generosity, we share with what we can, absolutely. Even just to be present for someone. It protects us from selfishness and the bitter feeling that, there's maybe others out there that have it better. That's okay. I'm okay with that. investing in other things in my life. Build a treasury that will last, Paul says. That's the message. And the third thing is this. He doesn't say this in particular, but I think it goes back to that message of be aware of what God has already given to you, the perspective of thanksgiving. He says this, be thankful for what God has given. It's present, not future. Has already given. I like the way that Peterson once again puts it in this way. He says this, and oh, my dear Timothy, guard the treasure that you were given. Guard it with your life. And you're going to say, well, what is that treasure, Pastor Ian? What is that which is of such value that it needs to be guarded with my life? Well, of course, that treasure, that message is the saving grace. That is the love of God in Jesus Christ. That is what matters. And that is a message that you and I have this morning. Because in fact, we too are treasures in God's eyes. That word guard that Paul uses here is in fact a legal term. It means this. It means it's a way of your life, and it will bring you a deep joy. It will bring you a deep contentment and a peace that no one else can take from you. You really do have everything that you need in Jesus Christ. Jesus said these words, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. My friends, and I'm not sure where you are on this journey in life, but maybe what we truly want has been there all along for us. Maybe what we truly want has already been freely given to us. Jesus gave his life for us so that we might have life, and as he said, that we might have life more abundantly. And my friends, this morning, this humbles us. This lifts us up. This gives us courage, because indeed we have a treasure to be guarded, and indeed we have a treasure to be thankful for. Amen? And all God's people say. Let's pray. Our good and great